Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live with Janome. I'm Ann Hine, embroidery software specialist for Janome America, and today is part 2 of our series on graphics, and this is called The Next Steps. So last time we went over opening different graphics, and I showed you how SVGs opened and how your JPEGs open and the difference between those two. And I'm going to start at that point where we're going to open a graphic. I did upload my graphic that I'm sharing with you. It's over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. You can go there and download that and use that graphic if you want to play along, or you can use one of your own. Either's fine. It doesn't really matter. But I just thought if we worked on the same one, I could help with that kind of stuff too. So here we go. I'm going to open our software and then we're going to go from there. So let me get a few things out of the way here. And we will open the software. All right, so here we are, and I have my software, and I'm going to go to my browse function here. I do have a USB stick, and I have it open right here. Here's my USB stick, and then here's my class folder on there, and these are all the things that are in it so far. I did a few tracing of items and bringing them in ahead of time to save us a little bit of time, but I'm going to go through all of that too because I want to cover that again and again because I think it's really important. So the first thing I want to mention is when I start a project, I will make a new folder for that project. So, and I go between my PC and my Mac. So usually I work on my PC and I'll make a folder either on my desktop or in my embroidery folder. And then from there, I'll put everything in there that I need or as I'm working on it. And then when I come over here, I just bring it over here and upload it to my Mac. So I always mention to people to make a folder first before you get started and either put it on your desktop or you can put it in your embroidery folder, wherever you store your things. Make a new folder right when you get started and put the graphic in there. So here is our graphic, and I'm going to start right here with the graphic. So here's our graphic, and I think I covered some of this last week, opening these different items, and we're going to auto-digitize this one right here. And when you're auto-digitizing, you do want to look at the size right here and keep that in mind. This is a rather large graphic, and then what the DPI is, and you don't want your DPI over 300. It's just not going to, it's just going to tie up the software. 300 is plenty. A lot of photo people use that as well. And you can also, you can also take this graphic into other photo programs, maybe Paint, or there's other ones out there, and you could maybe stylize it or clean it up or things like that. So there's lots of things you can do. But if you had a graphic like this, you could auto-digitize it. So these blue dots here mean I could crop this away. But I'm not going to crop it away today. But if you wanted to crop, you just click on left click and drag on these little parts here. And then you can make it just the middle part. And then I'm going to select OK. So this is our trace image window. And in here, we can scale our image. And our image was rather large. So it was like 11 inches high by something. So I'm going to scale it down 75%, or maybe I'm going to scale it down 25 and put in 75. I talked a bit about accuracy, and I'm going to show you the difference. I have two of these done, one with a high accuracy and one with a low accuracy. And I find the low accuracy one for this type of graphic works very well. And so in here, I can either use the arrows and bring it down to 1, or I could click and drag my mouse wheel to do it as well. Now my color limit, that is up to you. I decided with this one, I was going to work anywhere between 20 and 25 colors. So for right now, I'm just going to put in 10 colors. When you have a high number of colors, it picks up every little tiny variation, and you have lots of little bits and pieces that maybe you don't want. So I've done this part of it. You can look down here. You can see the size of my graphic. It came down a little bit because I dropped it 25%. And I'm just going to convert this right now. So I'm going to hit trace, and it's going to be converted. It's going to take a moment to take care of that, and then it'll appear on my workspace. So here it is. It's on my workspace, and you can see there's lots of, some of it has satin, some of it has step fill. There's a lot of going on. And then you can see all around here the graphic. The graphic itself has stayed at full size. So to change that, you can go up under your view and go to backdrop, and you're going to go to properties right here. And when properties opens, you can scale your backdrop back down to the right size that you have. Just use this little dot and slide it down till it says 75. When you get close, oh, I got right there, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard as well to do that. So if you needed to do any straightening, this would be the time to do it. You could leave this window up while you're working. If you needed to bring the graphic to the front so you could see, what parts didn't cover or things like that. Let's send it to the back. There we go. So this does have some gaps in it here. I can see some gaps. Look at that. There's some gaps in this one. So that might not be the one you want to work with, but I have a better way to work with this. And besides converting it all, when you convert it all, then you have to do a lot of edits, but you can convert it as artwork and then work with it as an artwork piece where you're just selecting parts and deciding what to do with it. So that's usually, this is how I start. I'll convert my graphic in here and I'll take a look at it and I'll say, okay, is this what I want? Maybe I don't want to do it this way. A busy graphic like this, I'm probably going to do a lot of stuff where I draw in the parts or create parts myself. So I'm going to close this. I'm also going to close this one here because I want to show you, we're not going to save it. I made some transfers already. So a couple of different ones. One of them I just brought in the backdrop. And so this one here, I'm going to open this one first. So this is the flower. I reduced it down to 75%, 25% down. I used the 1 for accuracy and 10 colors. So let's put that up there so you can see it. It's pretty much kind of like the one I just had. So you can see that there. And there are some gaps in that. And then let's open up the one that says, let's see, I think I have one that's 75, 75, 8, and 10. So this one here at 75, and then my accuracy is at 8, and my colors are at 10. And I will be closing windows as I go too. So you can see with the accuracy, some more things filled in. This center part filled in, it's a different color. It didn't read that color, but we can go back here. So I'm going to go back to my browser because I have both of these on one page to look at. So let me close these, and then I'm going to open this up so you can see them side by side. And my computer's thinking, this is a lot to do. All right, so this is the one where I used accuracy of 8, and this is an accuracy of 10. So, from this far away, you can see the house is a little different. I kind of like some of the flower in here. This sort of lost a lot in here. And you can see, oh, this is a back, yeah. So you can see what's going on there. Let me just make sure. I have these as artwork in here. So you can take a look at the differences in the artwork. When I use the 1 and 10 colors, I have a lot more to work with here. And this is artwork. This isn't converted. So this has accuracy of 8 with 10 colors. So you're losing quite a bit of this with the high accuracy. So how did I get it to be artwork? So let's go back to our JPEG, double click, auto-digitize, change this down here to 300, and then hit your return, and then go to OK. And I'm going to put my scale, my image down 25% to 75. I'm going to put my accuracy at 1, my color limit at 10. And then do you see right here, it says trace as artwork. If I click right there and I hit trace, it's going to create what looks like my backdrop, but it's the artwork. So I can work from my artwork, selecting parts of this. So if I want to work with that piece, I can select it, and I can maybe make it a step if I want to. Maybe I want to work with this orangey color next, make that a step. And then maybe I want to work with this brown color next. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my auto and turn that on so I can see what's happening. And I'm going to select this, and I'm going to move this to the front of the design. So it's at the very bottom. So we'll be able to find it better. So this one, again, I'm going to move this to the front of the design. And then I'm going to show you where that is. If we go down here, we'll find our two pieces. So there's that piece and this piece. Now under there, there's some of that dark brown was under there. So here's some of it here. But if I take this and just move this a little bit, I can see there's that dark brown, and I'm going to hit shift and select a different part of it. And I'm going to make that a step fill as well. And I'm going to right click on it and go to order, front of design. So now I can move this one back, and those will be on top because I've moved them here. So there I'm working with my different pieces. So if I don't want to select something, I don't have to, and I can work in that order. But sometimes even with this part of it, I still think with some of this, I might do a little bit better, maybe if I draw it in there and layer things in. Because right now, if I went in here, well, let's just look at the brown one here. If I did edit nodes on that, this one doesn't look so bad. It doesn't have that many nodes, but it has some weird stuff down here. All right, so let's zoom in here. This one here, it has its little arrows, and maybe this piece really should be here, and I can drag that arrow back down this way and this one up this way to kind of smooth that out a little bit. Right here, what do we need with that? So I'm going to come in here, and maybe I'll move that one over this way and point these arrows more at each other. And then I can back out and see what I have. Sometimes little spots like this is kind of a weird spot. Why can't that be more straight up here like that? You can see the arrows on it. You can shorten these up, or you can pull them out. Let me go back here and go back out. So you can go around fixing the shapes of your design, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes once I get started like this, even though this is artwork, now if you had taken this into some art program for photographs, you might have been able to reduce some of this extra stuff out of there and made more blocks of color. So like this little piece, I don't think I need that color in there. And when I do that, I have these little tiny things here that are parts of this. So I have a lot of extra pieces that now I'm going to have to play with. So when I get to this point, I make a decision. Do I want to click on stuff and edit them, or do I want to create my own things and work with it that way? So there you have that option as you go through it. So I always try different ways first. I'll bring my graphic in and just convert it and see what it looks like, because sometimes they convert it depends on the quality of your photograph and what is in there. It'll convert very, very nice so that you only have a few changes to make and a few fixes. But this one has a lot of things going on with it, And I had decided, even though I can open it as artwork and select sections of it, it still didn't help me with what was going on. And remember how we change our backdrop to be the same size because it's just a backdrop. I want to show you this one more time. You go to View, Backdrop, oops, and then come down here to Properties. Now, before I click on Properties, you can move that backdrop in different spots. Above the embroidery I mentioned, below the embroidery, you can hide it. And there are some shortcut keys on that. So it's on my Mac, it's Option, I click the Option key and a number, and it will shortcut. I think on my PC, it's it might be Alt and a number. Okay, so you can use those instead of having to keep going up to View. Properties does not have a quick key, so when that opens, but you can slide it off your piece like that and leave it up while you're working, because I could be over here still working and this stays up. So if you want to move between your bringing it to the front and having it in the back, I'm going to bring it down to 75 and bring it to the front so we can see it. Arrow, there we go. Let's bring it to the front. So now you can see when I brought it to the front what my stitches look like underneath there. And you know, there are some gaps, so I would have to fill all of this in. Okay, so you have an option of, you know, selecting your parts and then working from there. And the reason I changed the order of and put it at the very bottom of my sequence window is just so that there's a lot of, see how many things are in here? There's like 500 things in the sequence window. And maybe I want to work with these and select them. So I'm just going to move them to the bottom so they're easier for me to find and work with. And then I can reorder them anywhere I want. But it's easier to find them if you move them not to the top. A lot of times you move them, I want them at the bottom because then I know I can layer them, you know, that this one is going to be behind this one. This color here is going to be behind this number. And this, well, these are side to side on that part of it. All right, so I'm at that point now where I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I don't want to use this converted. I think I want to use a backdrop and just draw from there. So let me close this. I'm going to close this here, and I'm going to close this as well. I'm going to go to my browser because I don't want to save it. But you may want to do the same thing I did, is save it in different, and up here, I put a little, I know you guys can't see that. Let me see if I can make it really big. You can see my names. Oh, there we go. This is nice and big. So this is how I labeled them. This is my JPEG. Here's some first edits that I did. We're going to come back to that. Here's my flower. I moved it down to 75, down 25%, accuracy 1, colors of 10. Here's one where I did the flower at the 75, the accuracy of 1 and 5 colors. And you can see it just totally wiped out the center. So I made different ones and I put in their name what I did with them. And this is a one that I did 8 with 10 colors. And this is one I did accuracy of 8 with 5 colors. So you're gonna notice with less colors, there's gonna have less definition. This one is artwork. AW is artwork, and I did this one at accuracy of 1, and this one accuracy of 8. And then I did combine one in one window so you could see it. So let's go up and I'm going to show you how I get started. I'm going to go to my one with the edits in it so I can show you that. It is this one here. Okay. So this one is my edit and it's artwork. So let's open this up so you can see it. So even though this is the artwork one, and I could just select like that, I kept it on there. I could make it a backdrop if I wanted to, but I didn't mind leaving it as the artwork because I might want to pull different sections in. I decided at some point that I needed to draw in my shapes. Maybe I could bring them from here to the front and use them. That's a possibility. But I figured I would need to draw them. So let me show you what they look like. I'm going to go to the bottom. So here we are. Here's my petals that I did. I drew them and I made it a step file, a step stitch, and then I chose a pattern. These are all the same. This is a pattern of 4. This is a 3. And then this one here, I think I did, maybe I didn't save that one. I had made one of these that I stitched out, a satin, and I'm going to come here and do satin. And then I gave it a pattern, I believe a 3 or maybe a 4. And the reason I did that is I wanted to see how it would stitch out. So I'm going to go back to the camera because I did stitch this out just as my sample. I didn't want to get going too far along before I figured out how it's going to look. So I pulled off some of the leaves and the petals and copied them to another. Let me see if I can get it close and still look at it. Okay, so there we go. So these are the ones that are all step fill, and this bottom one is the one I did in satin. And it's hard to tell in the picture, but this one here is buckling. The center is buckling as well. There's too much in that center part down here. There's too much in there. But my petal that's right here, this petal here, it's buckling, and I don't know if I can turn it now. You can't really see it, but there's too much stitches in there, so I need to change the stitches. But when I first looked at this, let me hold it this way, I wanted to look at how the layered stitches are looking, because I layered it and I changed the density on there. I used stitch flow, I changed the size of it, and so forth. And I just threw the center in there because I wanted to see what the layered center would look like. And I layered too many things in there. So I want to go back and fix that. So this is how I would work. I would work with my one or two of my, and this is actually the same petal. I just copy and pasted it. And you can do that too, because nobody knows, and just change them slightly. I do want to stitch certain parts of this as I go along because what if I did all this work? It's a lot of work. And I got done, I stitched it out, and it's buckling here and it's not looking good there. Now I spent not only all that time to work on it, and then all that thread to stitch it, and the time to stitch it, and it didn't come out the way I wanted it. So you can definitely pull parts off and save them. And since this one I saved as, I'm going to pull my camera just a little bit for myself. This one I called edit 1. So once I go back and make some more edits, I might call it edit 2, because as I go along, maybe I'll get up to edit 4 and I'm like, oh, you know what? I liked something in edit 1. Let me go back and look at what I set in properties. Because sometimes, you can't always remember where when you start moving along, what you're changing. So I try to save those edited ones. And then once I get done with my project, I can go back into my folder and just delete all that stuff and have my final so that I can work with it. And remember, we're always saving as draw files in the very beginning. I haven't saved anything here as a GIF. Even the one I stitched out, I sent it to my machine via Wi-Fi, but you could put it on your USB stick. You don't have to save as a GIF and then put it on a USB stick if you go through the tab in the workspace itself. So let's go back to the workspace, and I'm going to go back to my edit one just to show you how I created those parts. And I'm still a work in progress, but this is how I start this first part. All right, let's go back to that part, the software. Here we go. All right, so here we are. I'm going to bring this in close. What I decided to do is with the yellow, I drew in my shape. And then I didn't change this one, the inner parts I changed the density on because I wanted them to show a little bit more. So to create that shape, what I did is I'm going to work with the one that's over here. and I'm going to click way over here out of the way. I'm going to come to my Digitize Outline Shape tool, and I'm just going to start anywhere. I don't mind the way they're overlapping. I can play with that later, but I'm just going to start here, and I'm left clicking, and the bottom part of this is actually kind of rounded, but when you start looking at your center, the bottoms here are a little bit jagged, so you can change that later. So I'm just going to use my left clicking, and mine is set on the context tool, so it's all left clicks to give me curves. If I wanted to do something with a corner or a straight line, I would hold down Shift and click. Once I get back to where I'm going, I click on it. My drawing tool is set up. I'm going to select it. It's set up to create a green outline and a red fill. So I don't want to outline, though maybe, somewhere down the road, maybe I do want outlines on these. Maybe that's the approach I want to take. So I can go ahead and delete that, and I can make this the color of this right here. So that's this color here, and it made it artwork, as you can see in my properties. And then I'm going to go up here and choose step. There we go. So now it is a step fill. Now, if you lose your properties or colors, up here you can right click and turn them back on. And if they happen to go across your piece, what you do is you click on them here, left click and hold, and you drag them over here to the middle, and then they expand again in case that happens. Sometimes it happens. So here's my piece, and this is where I started looking over here. Like maybe I wanted to try a different pattern, something like that, or maybe this one here, or excuse me, maybe I wanted to make it a satin fill. I certainly don't want to leave it like this because I know that's wide. So if I give it a pattern, it will give me a different sheen than a step fill will give me. And I can try different things in here. When I have these lines, if you change the length a little bit, they change their width like that. So you can play around with that kind of stuff here. So you can definitely use different patterns in here and get what you want. When you have your patterns, you can change the density. And remember I said, I'm going to actually go back here to a step fill. Remember I said that one was buckling on me, and that was this one here. Let's put this at 3. Let's look at that for a minute. It is a satin, and I could change my density and make it less dense. That made it a little bit less dense. You can, let me see, it's 2021. Let's see if I go back to, there we go. Yeah, so let me go to 0.015. So that's adding when I went, that's adding, so I need to go under that. So this is where I have to play around with it because I'm like, which direction do I go to see where I'm going with my stitches? And you could put your cursor in here, and 0.3 is no stitches at all. See if I can make my cursor work for this. 0.2. Let's go in this direction. So you can play around with your numbers to get your density less. For these top pieces, what I did is I drew them in just like I did the other one. And then, and these have, let me look at these nodes. These have custom nodes here. So to do that, I could, let me select this one and just move it away here a minute. So it's kind of messy there. So I sort of kind of figured out how I thought I wanted it to look. And I went to my Digitize Outline Shape tool, and I started at the bottom here with sort of some rounded ones, and then I went up and I did shift and click, shift and click, shift and click to get some pointy parts like this. And then I brought it down here. Now it's filled. I'm going to delete my outline, and then I'm going to make it this color. Oh, no, it's brown. Sorry. Let's make it, or that orangey brown. And I'm going to move it to the, oh, it is down here, but it's not in front of, I don't know why it's not, oh, it's artwork. So let me give it a step fill. There we go. So now it's a step fill. And when I have a step fill, I have gradient down here, and I also have underlay. So when I started getting to these thinner parts, I took away, let me see what my density is on this one, 0.35. So let me take my density down. Or 0.35, let me see. 0.35, sorry. Let me go back to this one. I gotta wait for my, there we go. There we go. And when it gets less dense, see how I can see that's the underlay under here. I can see those lines. I'm gonna go way in so you can see them. I didn't like that, so I went to my underlay and clicked on here, and you can do it as edging. So now it's just going to be on the edge, or you can do tacking. And when it's stitched out, I do like how it's stitched out because it's very light. It's very light stitching at this point. I can work with the length of my stitch, and I could play a little bit. I played with gradient in the center, and I'll show you that tool. So with stitch flow, I can select stitch flow. It's on direction with a step fill, and I could put a line in here, and then I can direct which way those stitches are going. So maybe I want them to go more in this kind of a way, or if I want to, I can bend this a little bit by clicking here and bending it just slightly. There we go. So it has a little bit of different change to it. Now, the other thing that's happening is because these are layered, it's removing the yellow that's behind it. See here, there's the yellow. So what I want to do is I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to go to the bottom of my properties, and I'm going to say never remove overlaps. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one, never. There we go. So you can see the little bit of yellow coming through, and I think it makes a nice graded piece as you go along. See, it's nice and light in there, so you can see that. That makes a lot of shading. The bottom part, remember I mentioned down here, some of this was more jagged. So I could turn on nodes for my yellow. I could right click and say cusp node, and that would give me more of a square. And if I put one over here, if I say two line, it gives me the arrows. So I could play around with these arrows now. Click on your pieces, and then you can click and drag those, and so they don't look so drawn in there. Let me just click away. So see how this is sort of more of a not natural, and this is more of what natural would look like. All right, let me see what our time is at this moment. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to and show you how to do this center part. All right, this is way too many layers, so I'm going to have to remove the layers, but I used this layering technique for gradient. So I'm going to open a new page for that so you can see. And I just made a circle for that center part. I don't need my outline, so in my used colors, I'm going to delete it. And on the inside here, let's go ahead and change the color of this to, we'll do a dark brown, and then I'm going to turn off my tool, I'm going to copy and paste, And the next one, I think I'm going to make like a nice yellowy color. Let's see, they're up here, orangey color. Let's use this orange. Okay, so I have my two pieces. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select by color so it has the brown, or I can open up my manual and look, I need to turn off my remove overlaps to never on both of these because I want to layer them. There we go. So I'm going to select the top one. I'm going to go to gradient and I'm going to make it minus 300. And I'm going to move this piece off of here. Let's move it down there. So you can see how it's less dense, more dense here. That's a minus. Now on this, the orange one, if I just put the gradient at 300, it goes in the other direction. So I can layer them. And maybe the orange one, I want it to be more like 200 or even 100. So you can play around with how much you want the front one to be and how it looks. You can also use your stitch flow on both of these. Let me move this down so we can see that one here. If I did stitch flow and I had stitch flow in here and I made this go, oh, that's the stitch flow manages where the gradient is going to be. So let's turn it around this way. It's still going to be down there. And then I'm just going to make this come up just a little bit, not that much. I just went, there it is, just a little bend. And then here, I'm going to put it here, but I know I have to turn it this way. There we go. And then I'm going to make this one bend in the same direction. Let's see, just a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to drag it, turn off my stitch flow tool, drag it back up. There you go. So you can create these layered pieces that have movement and shading in them. So you can play around with your different gradients for a positive number and a negative number on your step fills and layer them up and see how you like them. Okay. All right, let me go back to the camera. I think I've given you quite a few things to work with between now and next week. We're going to do a little, maybe a little more fine tuning. Maybe I'll have more of my petals done. Depends on my schedule, how things are going. But what you should do is work with your image, whatever it is. And before you get too far along, stitch one of these out and see how you like it and then make your changes. I definitely am going to go back in because now this one and this one stitched nicely. This one has a little bend to it. So I think there's something in the density of this. So I could make this a little bit less dense and see if it would lay a lot nicer and not do this little cupping. What I have is a cotton fabric, and then I have two pieces of sort of like more of a thin tearaway on the back there. And it depends on where I'm going to put it. I think this would be nice on a firmer fabric, maybe like a canvas or a denim. So you have to think about that when you're working with your fabrics as well. All right, so go ahead and post your comments down below as you're working. You can also post over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. We can answer your questions and help you along the way there. That's where you'll find the graphic. If you go in there and then click on files, I'm going to call it Annie's Flower, and you'll find it there. All right, everyone, bye for now. Thanks for joining me in the studio. Have a great day.